Want to start the date, please? Okay, I will call the November 30th, 2021 special meeting of Mill Creek City Council to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance with newly elected Councilmember Allison. Please lead us into that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Naomi, roll call, please.
Yes, Mayor Holtzclaw,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vanel,
Here.
Councilmember Bond.
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari. Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque.
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari advised me that he was unable to get a replacement for his regularly scheduled work shift and cannot attend tonight. So can we have a motion to excuse, please?
Motion to excuse Councilmember Cavallari.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Brings us to audience communication. Anyone like to address the council? Step forward, name and address, and keep your comments as few minutes as possible.
Sounds great. Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council, and staff. My name is Kevin O'Brien. I'm the Fire Chief for Snohomish Regional Fire and Rescue, your fire department. I live at 13502 127th Drive Northeast in Lake Stevens, 98258. I'm here this evening with my team from Snohomish Regional, and we're here to tell you we love serving Mill Creek. We've been serving Mill Creek since 1945. Our heart and soul is in the community of Mill Creek, attending festivals, being a part of this. Of course, our fire station is just right across the street down the road. We care deeply about serving here. Looks like we somehow made a mistake or miscommunicated somehow about our contract with you, about our services with you. We want to continue serving you. We know this community. We know it inside out. We know the neighborhoods, the people, the schools, and we're excellent at what we do because we care deeply about it. I'm here to tell you that before you move forward with another contract, please let us work with you. We want to work with you. We want to help. We want to open dialogue and communications. We would like to work with you on a possible stair-step contract. Of course, we would hope that you would annex into the district ultimately, but the bottom line is we are here to say we want to work with you. And we believe for you and the citizens, of course, the most important thing about saving the lives, saving property, protecting them, caring for them, is to continue service with us. We believe it's the most fiscally responsible for the community as well. And I just want you to know that we are here to say, hey, we want to partner with you. We want to communicate. And please let us do that. I also want to say thank you. Thank you to you and the community for allowing us to serve. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I see your hand, Will. We have a few people in the audience here who are speaking, then I'll get to you.
My name is Roy Waugh. I live at 4406 145th Place Southeast in Appletree. I've been one of your commissioners for 30 years. Now, a lot of you don't recognize me. Mark, I see Mike Todd up there. Vince knows me. We have been proud to serve Mill Creek. And I think the past two administrators might have not done us any favors in how they presented us to you. We had a fire board we used to meet once a month. We used to work out any issues. The council was quite aware of everything that was happening all the time, and there was never any miscommunications or misunderstandings. I think that as your citizens are gonna look at the board, at the council, and ask, this is an amazing proposal that Karen Reed put together. What if Karen Reed sat down with our chief and put a proposal to present to this council? Was that ever considered? We've never been given an opportunity to make a proposal to this council. Now, I don't know how that miscommunication came about, but we would like that opportunity, and I think your citizens deserve that opportunity. We will do everything we can to work towards parity with our citizens and our contractees. But I think we'd like the opportunity to do that. And I thank you very much for being able to address you tonight.
Thank you. And
Did you want to acknowledge someone?
oh, I was going to get to everyone in the audience here before I get to Mr. Nelson.
Well, hello again, Randy Fay, the Premier Face. I live at 6825 164th Street in Snohomish, one of the hill people in Clearview. And like has been stated, Surfer has just been proud to serve the city. Now I'm from Oklahoma, and from an early age, they teach us how to speak in analogies. I don't know why that is, but that's how it is. I guess from my perspective, I've been in the mix as one of the commission representatives to Mill Creek through the negotiations of this last contract and have valued the relationships we've developed. I watched the presentation you received last week. Karen did a great job on that. And without a doubt, there's certainly parity of services between Surfer that you've been using and the proposal you're considering. But the analogy, I'll tell you what surprised us a little bit is that throughout the last several months, again, we've had some miscommunication that we gave an ultimatum to the city to either pay what everybody else is paying or we're not going to negotiate. And we took a hard look internally about, well, how did that happen? And in the meetings that our chief had with your city manager, the issue of parity was discussed, but no ultimatums were given at that point. So we looked at the letter that was given to your city manager to indicate our intention to end the contract. And I just want to remind the council that the requirement to provide that letter and the specific language of that letter was negotiated demand by your previous city manager. The language of the letter was drafted by Bob Stowe, the consultant you hired. So if we did anything, we made the mistake of being compliant with the contract requirements to provide that letter with that language to trigger negotiations. The analogy I would use is we've been waiting as the city of Mill Creek asked for our budgets, our financial history, our costs, our labor costs, and a lot of different things. And each time our chief asked the city manager, are we going to get a chance to sit down and negotiate? And we were told, yes. Once I have all the information from South County and you guys, you will have that opportunity. So we've been working on ideas on how we can make this as gentle as possible for your citizens. So the analogy would be that I'm standing at a light rail station with a briefcase full of ideas and the train just blows through the station. And now here you are tonight, considering this resolution to change services. I would ask that you think back, particularly those of you who've been on the board for a while, think about our history. I was involved in the negotiations of this contract that's coming to an end. And at that time, we were also discussing parity. We were also discussing what the city would they consider annexing into Snohomish region. And the city came to us and said, look, we've got some financial issues. I mean, I'm gonna be candid here. Is there any way we can stair step this 6-year contract? And we talked about it as a commissioner, realizing that was gonna result in subsidizing the expenses here. But we were happy to do that because we've had this 40-year relationship, and we were happy to work with the city to stair step this last 6 years. And there's no grumbling about that. We were happy to do it. So as you sit here and you weigh whether we would give you an ultimatum, I'd ask you to consider our history. We've never given the city of Mill Creek an ultimatum related to the services we provide or what it costs you. We've negotiated in good faith. And candidly, you're gonna get great service no matter which way you go. But we think we can, with the ideas we're discussing, we think we can give you a safer, less traumatic process to buy you the time you need to either consider annexation or to continue on in a contract that doesn't create upheaval in your station, that doesn't disrupt the crews that you have that are dedicated here after years of service, that doesn't necessitate the city potentially having to buy new equipment, and all those different kinds of expenses. So the bottom line is, you're gonna get great service wherever you go. We're not resting on our laurels. We think we've got a better path for you to take. And we would just ask that as you consider this, that we be given an opportunity to apologize to you if we created communication issues, but to give a proposal. And I think for your constituents, you know, we have to be very careful of optics with our voters. And I think from a due diligence standpoint, it strengthens your position as a council to be looking at proposals not only from South County, but your current vendor. So you can stand in front of the voters and say, yes, we took an honest, hard look at our two best options and took our vote in good faith. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here in the audience? Seeing none, Mr. Nelson. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand go up. I apologize.
I thought there was one more, I apologize. My name is Craig Fisher, I live at 14528 247 Drive, Southeast of Monroe. I am the union president of the firefighters union that provides the service that staffs your station here for your fire department here in Mill Creek. I just wanted to say that I'm here to support our chief and support our commissioners and also support this council. Having watched the presentation that was given last week, I want to thank Karen for putting that together. And, you know, she's dealt with other mergers that have happened, you know, in the county and also in this region. And I just think that there's some added information that the council could benefit from to make sure that they have the whole picture. I'm not going to talk much longer, but one thing I do want to make sure you understand is that the membership that I represent that works in the station here in Mill Creek, Station 76, they bid to work in that station. They maneuver to work in that station. They pick up extra shifts to work in that station. That's because it's a place that they want to be. It's a home that they've made, and they like working in this city, and we would like to continue working in the city. So again, it's for our chief and our commissioners in this council and making sure you have all the information to make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Troy Elmore, 3003 112th Avenue Southeast, Lake Stevens. I'll keep it really brief. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come out here and speak this evening. I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to Chief O'Brien so he can kind of summarize everything. And again, thank you very much. Have a great night.
Again, honorable mayor and council, staff and community, we really appreciate serving here. You have a fire department that is on the road to accreditation. So that's a big process, and it actually means that you have a high level of service. Not a lot of fire departments are accredited, and we're on track to get that done this year. We have a comprehensive capital facility plan to take care of Station 76 here in Mill Creek and the other stations. We are a big believer in fiscal responsibility and planning. We just finished up and just about to be approved our strategic plan, which involves serving this community. And I just want you to know, you have a caring fire department that appreciates serving here, and we appreciate what we do. And so thank you for letting us talk to you this evening.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's everyone in the audience. Mr. Nelson, your opportunity.
Thank you. Will Nelson, 14925 29th Drive Southeast. I have no particular ideas one way or another whether we should stay with South County or go with the old Fire District 1, whatever's the better deal for us. What I would like to emphasize is that no double dipping on the in the situation where, like we did in 2004 with the library vote. If we go with another district, I believe that the every penny that the city council or the city currently collects from the voters should be returned to the voters. And I believe that that should be incorporated into any ballot measure in writing so that we, the voters, know that we're going to get all our money back, whether that's 86 or 88 or $1.21 per assessed value, thousand of assessed valuation. I remember watching the Linwood City Council meeting when they had a similar opportunity. And as I recall, they collected 75 cents for the city, I think, and only gave back 50 cents to the voters. And this one woman council member in Linwood said, and I'll almost quote her verbatim, how pleased she was that they could give this money back to the voters. When in actuality, they stole about 75 cents from them. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Anyone else on the screen? Raise your hand or not seeing anyone. Okay. With that, we will move on to our study session. I'm not sure who I'm turning it over to. Am I turning over to Martin, to Karen?
I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Karen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my first question is right back at you. Would you we did the presentation last week pretty quickly. I can do another quick summary of it. We can go straight to questions from you on the council. What would be most helpful to you, sir?
Did you want to go over the additional slides that you added?
I can go through the slides we presented last week again. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, didn't you have additional slides that were added?
We just have one slide saying that we have the resolution before you tonight, which would formally engage the process with South County Fire, and then 2 slides that frame up the next discussion that we would have later in December if the council proceeds this evening.
Councilmember Steckler.
Thank you, Mayor. Karen,
Sir.
before we move ahead, I do have some questions about the presentation you gave us last week. Why don't I start by running through some of those, and you can help clarify things for me. Let's see. The first one I want to talk about is the benefit charge, which you talked about, the fact that South Regional has a fire benefit and District 7 does not, are current, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And benefit charges, they're kind of a double-edged sword, as I recall. You explained them that it allows you to charge different fees for business structures versus personal residences. But I'm also a little bit concerned about, they're also a little volatile, aren't they, in that for the 6 years that they're running, these fees can be increased, I believe up to 60%. without any vote or input from the citizens or the council. Is that correct?
That is correct. Once a year, the Board of Commissioners sets the level for the benefit charge, how much money they would like to collect. And they can also adjust the formula, the limitation in state law, in addition to getting periodic voter approval to impose them in the first place, is that the total amount collected cannot exceed 60% of the operating budget. So that does give them the ability to raise the budget if the Board of Commissioners so desires. There is a appeals process every year as noted on this slide, but yes, you're absolutely correct, sir.
Okay, so that to me is something I wanted to clarify, kind of a concern as much as the benefit too, and that there is a volatility there on what we would be paying over the years out of our control, in addition to the contract, whatever we negotiated. The other question I've got, now the fees that you showed here, the estimated cost if we do go with South County at 7.48. That cost that's a 1 year cost, is that correct?
That's correct.
So
Michael,
we'll have to renegotiate after 1 year, a new contract. It's not
Well,
a 3 or 6 year contract, correct?
the path that is being recommended first is the annexation, which would avoid the need to contract at all. But if the annexation was not successful, or if the council chose to instead contract, what is on the table right now with South County Fire is a interim service contract, because they would prefer that the city annex. So these are the numbers that would be in 2023, either the contract cost or the cost in 2023 to the taxpayers if annexation was approved. And these are estimates that they'll be adjusted based on AV and budget decisions, but these are the numbers that we have now.
So whether annexation does not get approved, it would still agree to these numbers, correct?
If annexation does not get approved, yes, where we are right now, and again, we're still in process, but is that we would then have an interim service contract for 1 year. We would again seek annexation the following year from the voters. If that was unsuccessful, again, there would be an additional 1 year contract extension. And during that second 1 year extension, the city would be then renegotiating a longer term contract with South County Fire.
Was it South County that was not interested in the long-term contract, or was that our choice?
That was South County's preferences to really, they're interested in annexing. They've told their existing contract cities that is their preference, and they want to move them in that direction as well. And in light of that, they didn't want to sort of be in two places at once with their contract cities, and stay consistent with that desire to annex and not be in the contract business.
Now, in addition to this cost, another question, just make sure it's explained. If we do go to South County, in addition to the 7.48, there are additional costs, aren't there? That the building that we have now is owned partially between the city and SFRF, I said that right? I like to say 7, it's easier. So we would have to enter an agreement to purchase the building from them. And my understanding is from a previous meeting, we would need to purchase equipment as well. So those costs would be in addition to the 7.48, correct?
This slide does indicate that the fire station is an issue. The city has previously pre-negotiated with Surfer the purchase terms for the fire station. The city has the right to purchase the fire station over time or for a pre-negotiated price, and that would be in addition to these costs here. The other retained cost that we can anticipate is for fire marshal services. I don't believe it's necessarily the case that there would be a cost for apparatus.
In previous discussions I heard there was, can we clarify if there is going to be equipment that needs to be purchased? That was something that came up in previous
I
discussion.
may defer to Grant here, but we are negotiating and my sense is that we will get past the issue of the apparatus. But again, we're still in negotiation. It could go in a different direction. But at this point, I'm not anticipating that.
So here's my concern, in essence, if we don't know for sure if we're going to have to purchase the building and purchase equipment and sign up for fire marshal services, that 7.48 could go up considerably, like another couple $1 million. And that's a cost that we need to know for sure as to what we would be getting into if we made a choice to go in this resolution and go with South County.
You definitely would want to know all those terms, and we definitely want to finish up that negotiation expeditiously so that you have all that information before you have to make any decision to place anything before the voters of this community.
I would agree with that also. And the other price is not, from what I'm hearing tonight, the 9.37 was not a proposal made by SRFR. That was just an estimate that we plugged in there. Is that correct?
That reflects what the understanding, and again, as the representatives from Surfer have said tonight, there may have been a misunderstanding, but that reflects the sort of parity cost, the equivalent of annexation, the avoiding of a subsidy of Mill Creek. If you were either annexing or had a contract that did not reflect a subsidy as compared to Surfer's other residents, that would be the rate in 2023, given the estimated AV and tax. And I know Grant has his hand up, so I'll just.
So, yeah, I just wanted to add to Karen's answer with respect to the terms of the purchase of the fire station. I think it's useful to say that the balance that would be owed would be 1.160 million. And the city has the right to pay that either in cash at closing or over 20 years. So the cost would be quite a bit. It wouldn't be 1.160 million necessarily all at once. It could be if the city council chose to pay it that way. So it would be quite a bit less per month, per year in terms of the cost.
$6,000, I believe, is the.
But it's still going to be a debt we carry on our books. So if we pay it now or pay it later, it's something we owe. Which we're going to incur as a decision to move to South County Fire. That was the point that I wanted to make is whether we pay it off in terms, we're going to incur that.
Yeah, and then I believe, Karen, if you could just explain how the rate was calculated for South County Fire, for Surfer, and that's the rate that is based upon, I believe, the recently approved levy lid lift that that Surfers voters approved to go up to the what was it, $1.50 per $1,000 of assessed value. Is that right, Karen?
That's right. The comparative tax rates in 2022 are back on slide 5. If Mike Todd could roll back there, and as Grant just said, the Surfer voters just approved raising the fire levy to $1.50. Their EMS levy we are expecting will be at around 33 cents going into next year for a total of $1.88, compared to the equivalent of $1.51, including the fire benefit charge revenues as a property tax equivalent. The forecast that South County Fire has told us, and they are free to change this, but their estimate at this point is that they are on a trajectory of increasing their benefit charges 2% per year.
And these numbers also are based upon the 1-year contract we're looking at 7.48, correct?
This slide just is a reflection of the tax rates in 2022. They would change again every year.
So they're the ones you're showing for Snohomish Regional versus South Snohomish. South Snohomish numbers, those tax numbers there, those are based upon the fee of 7.48. Is that correct? That's the
That tax rate of $1.51 with Mill Creek AV translates to about 7.4 million, more or less, depending on your AV assumptions. And again, we don't know what the final cost of the interim contract would be because we're still negotiating it. But if the city were to annex, it would be the tax rates of Surfer that would apply to the voters in Mill Creek as compared to if the city annexed into Surfer, it would be the Surfer tax rates that were applied.
So no matter what the fee is down the road, those are the tax rates?
Those are the tax rates. And again, the tax rates are relevant if you've annexed or if your service provider is seeking a parity rate contract. The contract cost could be very different depending on a negotiation.
This is, I guess I'm trying to understand if this is an apples to apples comparison, or is it an apples to oranges? That's what I'm trying to understand.
It's apples to apples in terms of the 2022 tax rates for these two agencies.
The 2022 tax rate, so based on what they're currently paying, based upon the 2022 fees, correct? It doesn't have anything to do with the new rates we're talking about.
This shows what their respective taxpayers will pay in 2022. And if you assume that Mill Creek contracted at a parity rate with either agency, that parity rate would be calculated based on these tax rates. Again, you could negotiate something ultimately different with either agency. But if you, for purposes of comparing these two as an annexation picture, since that is the preferred option from the staff team, the tax rates are relevant to the impact on Mill Creek folks, should annexation be approved.
I'm afraid I'm trying to understand that this is 2022. And so the tax rates, if they be annexed into both, these are the tax rates for South Snohomish versus SRFR. And they're based upon the cost for services in 2022. I'm trying to understand what's the cost basis for it. That's what I don't understand.
It's based on their budget and their assessed value and their other contracts. So each agency has its own budget. They have their own tax rates. And the tax rates plus their other revenues combined, obviously, support their budget. And they have very different tax rates and they have different tax bases.
Okay. So this doesn't have anything to do with the fees that can be charged. This is just an estimate based upon the estimated property tax fees.
These aren't estimated fees. These are what they've submitted to the assessor to be charged against the property owners in those jurisdictions in 2022. That's all the information we can have right now to look at because they haven't determined what the rates will be for 2023.
And we're not paying these in 2022 because we still have a year of our contract, so.
That's correct. So this is the only information we have to be able to, yeah. It's the only information they're able to present to us is what the cost may be in 2023 is the charges they'll be charging in 2022.
But that's, I assume it's gonna be totally different, so.
We don't know. Okay, I want you to ask all your questions, but there's others that have their lights on that would like to ask questions as well. Can
I do have, I'm sorry, I was trying to understand it.
I want to give you an opportunity to ask all your questions, but I want to give others an opportunity to ask some questions as well. So I'm gonna move on to Mayor Pro Tem and I'll come back to you with others. Okay, ask one more.
So I don't have a page number on the copy I have in front of me, but the slide which says South County Fire and SRFR compared comparison slide. It says the South County Fire offers some programs that SRFR does not, including community paramedic program. Also has robust public education and fire prevention programs. This is what South County provides that SRFR does not provide. My understanding is all of those programs are offered by both, and we've been enjoying both of those from SRFR. What am I got wrong?
I could be wrong, but it is my understanding that South County Fires is the only one that has the community paramedic program for the low acuity calls. That may be incorrect. I know both agencies certainly have public education and fire prevention. This slide is not meant to assert that that is not the case for both agencies. I think that South County Fire is serving a more urbanized area, and that community paramedic program has been particularly helpful for them, is my understanding.
Yeah, SRFR did look into it, does have a community paramedic program. We have enjoyed it. Last year they had an open position they did not fill. And that is why you might have looked at last year and not seen it. But for years before that and going forward, they are recruiting for it. They are going to have the community paramedic program and all the other programs. So in short, it's very important that we prepare these. The services are the same between both of these. Neither one gives us more or less than the other. That's the clarification that I wanted to make sure that I was correct on when I looked it up. That was my last one I'm allowed to ask.
No, I said you could ask all your questions. I said I just wanted to give others an opportunity.
I'll come back.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Karen, I just have, well, maybe two questions built into one, and it may actually be a question for Grant instead of Karen. I want to make sure that my understanding is accurate, because my understanding is that tonight we are discussing this resolution, and we're here to approve the resolution to discuss whether or not we will go into annexation with South County Fire. And that does not mean that we are actually putting this on the ballot, that we are actually moving forward with annexation, that is just fact-finding. Is that correct?
Member Tim, maybe I'll take a shot at this one. Under RCW 5226-300, the process for any annexation begins with a request from the jurisdiction seeking annexation to make the request to the RFA, in this case, South County Fire. You are correct that it does not obligate the city ultimately to put the annexation on the vote. What it does is it is a communication of a request for annexation, which then will result in the RFA providing, they then would need to adopt a resolution to have the city annexed, and it also would adopt amendments to its RFA plan to include the city of Mill Creek within its regional fire authority. And all those documents would come back to you as the city council for approval and setting a date for including the having the measure put on the annexation measure put on the ballot. So it is the beginning, it is not the end, and it does not mean that because you have the right to look at what comes back to you in the form of the resolution from the RFA, and also in terms of the RFA's plan for service to Mill Creek, which you have to be satisfied with in order to then adopt a resolution to put the annexation on the ballot. So there are several steps in this process. This is the first one.
Thank you, Grant. So the second part of my question around this then is, after listening to what Chief O'Brien has to say, that they were not actually given the opportunity to come to the negotiation table. If we move forward this evening with this annexation vote for discovery, does this hinder us from still going to the table to discuss with Surfer for possible negotiations with them at that point to give them the chance to give us a contract that's more apples to apples, if you will, from them?
Well, I think that Karen, maybe you want to start with this one. and then I will follow up. But I think I would have to start by saying the characterization that they've been waiting to to negotiate. The phones work both ways. The notice of termination was sent in December of last year. There have been plenty of opportunities to have conversations in terms of proposals. My understanding is that what has been provided by Surfer has been the proposal that the city would have a contract that would have parity rates. And the parity rates have been identified and shown to you to be significantly higher than the rates that are being, when the apples and apples comparison is done, than what what appears to be the case with South County Fire. So I guess the premise may not be fully subscribed upon. Whether the city wants to continue a conversation or start or have a additional conversation with South County Fire, I think it's up to the council to decide, obviously. But clearly, if there was, the first step in the process of annexation is to adopt this resolution. It is not the last. It doesn't mean that you're obligated to put it on the ballot, but given the time frame involved, should you not proceed tonight, you will be very constrained time-wise to get something on the ballot the following year. And I think, Karen, you can discuss the timeline better than me.
Karen, can you unshare your screen, please, so we can, I don't think we need.
Michael's sharing the screen for me. We could look at the schedule if you wanted in response to that suggestion. The schedule is back on it's slide 14, if you would like to look at that, or I can just speak to it. What's your preference? Next couple slides. There you go. So if the council wants to pursue annexation in order to have this the most seamless impact on the city's budget, and in other words, that when the Surfer contract ends, a new service contract and revenues to pay for that contract would be in place, would be to ask for an annexation vote no later than this April, so that if it is successful, South County Fire could then start collecting revenue in Mill Creek in 2023 after the Surfer contract ends. That is a schedule that is assertive, shall we say. We would want to be completing our negotiations between now and sometime in January with South County Fire. And there are at least 3 agreements involved in that you would need to consider and act on, and then decide if you approve them, you would take action on a ordinance or resolution, I guess, to place a ballot measure before the voters in April. And that has to be transmitted to the county by February 25th. So it's a little bit challenging at this point to anticipate keeping that schedule and undergoing a dual negotiation track, but I'm sure your loyal team will attempt anything.
So Karen, if we were to, if we did not pass this resolution tonight and we were to take a week or two to hear what Surfer has to say and what proposal they want to come up, would that mean that we would not be able to make the time frame? I realize that we're already in a crunch, and that would really just even more of a crunch, but is it something that would be doable?
I think it's, we could certainly get the information, and we could, we're sort of mid process in our deliberations with South County Fire. We could try to continue to hone those in to see, get closer to an end and see where we are and some of the question marks we still have around their contract. But I don't think there's a fatal flaw if we delayed acting on the resolution. It may create a little bit more uncertainty and pressure on the timeline, but I think that would be my take. I don't know, Grant, if you have a strongly different view on that.
Well, all I would say is, I think you've described it well. The dates are the dates. The challenge that the council will face if we don't get to the ballot with this in the timeframe of the April election, that means a decision in February, I believe, as Karen was saying, on annexation, is that you will have to run several EMS levies. And that will complicate, that calendar gets complicated as well. Karen?
The backup plan, basically, if annexation is not put in place, the city's EMS levy expires next year, and that currently supports 40% of the contract payment to Surfer. So you'll be looking to find somewhere, depending, if you were somewhere in the vicinity of at least $7.5 million, more or less, if we were proceeding with South County Fire, and then a price tag unknown with Surfer. In any event, though, the funding is not going to be there to support either of those contracts, absent either spending down one-time reserves, all of the federal grant money, which just shifts the problem out for 1 year, or you're going to need some tax votes from the folks in Mill Creek to support the cost of fire service moving forward into 2023, which means those votes have to be taken in 2022.
Thank you, Karen.
Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the commissioners and the fire chief, union president, took time to come down here and state your case. A couple of you very graciously recognized that there was a possible breakdown in communication, and I would say I accept that, and that may have occurred, and I'm not sure. We did get the impression pretty clearly, based on the letter, that we were given the impression from our leadership, our prior city manager, that this was a take it or leave it. There was no amount of negotiations to be done because this was your offer. So hearing that maybe there was a break in communication, and I do accept that. We have a timeline that was triggered by that, if I understand things right. What I'm wondering, we currently are in the process of finding a new city manager, and we have 2 new council members who are sort of, to use fire, drinking from the fire hose, so to speak, as far as learning this job. If there was a way to buy us some time, if we could stop that clock that's ticking on us and maybe get a chance to sit down with you guys and hear you. I don't want to disrespect District 1. And I'm going to actually, this is coming to you, Karen and Grant. And Karen, thank you for everything you've done. I appreciate it. And while I got the mic, I started in Mill Creek. I worked with the District 7 guys. Many of them are friends. A lot of them, like me, have retired. There's a lot of new faces. Nothing about any of these discussions has any reflection on the service or the quality of people that work for Fire District 7, now South Regional Fire Service. Thank you so much for going South County Fire, South Regional Fire. Come on, can we get a little more creative here, guys? But nonetheless, the prior District 7 staff have always been nothing but professional and outstanding people, and every interaction I've had with District 1 has been the same, but you guys have always represented our city very well. So I'm struggling with our current situation. We have a vacancy as a city manager. We have 2 brand new city council members. We have a time crunch coming. We have District 7 partners for many, many years saying there's a break in communication. We don't feel we communicated effectively. They apologized for their part in that. And I'm willing to own some of it on our side as well. What are our options, Karen?
Well, per the conversation with Stephanie, you could certainly seek, you could certainly hear out District 7 Surfer and see what their thoughts are. You can keep on, you could at the same time continue your discussions with South County Fire, but in the not too distant future, you would need to make a choice, or there will not be a choice. The choice will sort of be handed to you. So
What would need to take place to get us off this clock that is ticking right now?
you would need a service contract in place for the time beyond 2022, and you would need revenue to pay for it. So even if you decide South County Fire annexation, not something we want to pursue this year, you're still going to have to find money to pay for fire service next year. And again, your EMS levy expires in 2022. It pays for 40% of the contract. So at a minimum, you're probably going to want to restore that. And then you're going to want to look at the implications in terms of the impact on other city services if you don't also have a lid lift or find other revenue to support the other 60% of the contract. Because
So I have not been on this board as long as Roy Watt, but I have been on here for a while. And we've had spirited discussions over the years about annexing in and our steadfast refusal to annex into the district. Their desire that the rural folks were subsidizing Mill Creek, my position that the denser populations in Mill Creek should not subsidize the rural, and both, I think, arguments have merit. There's two sides to it, but I will say that it's pretty clear to everybody that we are more open to pursuing annexation as a way to pay for fire service than this council has ever been in probably the 30 years that Roy has been serving and the years that I've been on as well. So I think that is the path we see as our future as well. And I think that might be news to some of you in what used to be referred to as Fire District 7. And maybe if we had a chance to at least give you guys process that, see what, if any, is value to you there. And we had a chance to discuss and see if we could do something to get out of this timeline so that we could do a good job for this, for not only as a loyal partner to you guys, and even if it means that we part ways, but at least a fair discussion. And that we can ultimately let the voters make that decision, whichever way we go. That's what's going on in my head, Karen, if you can.
Well, I think that the looking at the difficulty that most cities in Western Washington have, their full service cities of supporting a fire department, as well as everything else they're trying to do, and the fact that so many of them have moved to annex is not a coincidence. It's because the cost of fire service is so high. And looking at that sort of, dramatic change in how people are doing fire service in the last decade, moving to the larger and larger units, annexing, getting out of the delivering it yourself, especially as you're a smaller organization. I think that is what led the former city manager to really focus on, okay, well, let's start looking down that road. What are the implications down the road if we wanted to annex? And that's when the very substantial difference in at least the near-term tax rates becomes interesting and important. And it's a substantial difference, as Grant noted, which tilted the focus on South County Fire earlier this past year. And that's why we have been in discussions with them pretty much since June, when Michael Caravino asked council's permission to go ahead and at least open that dialogue. And it's been continuing since then because of those differential tax rates.
Councilmember Duque or Allison, did you have any questions? You don't have to, but just before I ask mine,
No, go ahead.
I do.
Melissa, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say it was really helpful for me to hear from Councilmember Bond in the way you were expressing yourself, and of course with Mayor Pro Tem Vignal and then Councilmember Steckler. I really appreciate the additional information that you provided, and of course Karen Reed's work. And for me, I guess in terms of debate or question or thinking through, it seems, and what you said, Councilmember Bond, about annexation, it seems like that your comment about it looks like this council is, a council that might be interested. I can't speak for Councilmember Allison, but I know for myself that makes the most sense based off of what I've been understanding and learning about this whole summer while campaigning, about what this looks like, what this means, how this will be one of the things that if elected, that was going to be an immediate thing I needed to be, ready for. And so thinking through all of that and hearing from all of the wonderful members that are there in the chambers, I don't know if it's allowed to have two. I know that you said that we could reach out and have like additional discussions and that can hold things, but can we have two resolutions? Because right now it seems very kind of firm. Can we have two? Karen, you mentioned a concurrent kind of pathway for it. Is that possible to have two resolutions that say that we're looking into annexation at both, and then at the end is when in beginning February, when we see all the numbers, and that's when we would decide, because then we're comparing apples to apples.
A couple of thoughts. I think it would be, Grant can confirm this, I think it would be problematic to have two resolutions stating your desire to request annex to two different agencies. And I do think if we're on a very fast track, I don't know how you would make the case to the voters, given the tax differential, that you want to go to Surfer. It's so much more expensive than going to South County Fire in the near term. And so I think that makes it it may end up being a bet. It's possible that if Surfer came to us this week, that would be great with a contract proposal. And it turns out to be, many years and much, much less expensive. That would be something that could get us off the next least cost option. The least cost option for the city is to pursue, as far as we are aware, based on the prior comments of Surfer, would be to pursue South County Fire. And that's again been a primary reason for the focus there. I'm not sure if that makes complete sense, but
no, it did. It absolutely makes sense. It's the legality of having the two. And I get what you're saying about of how do we address this to voters, but I want to say on my end, I think that's part of it, is if we can't answer why, not just like numbers, because there are a lot of people who, it's all about just numbers and they just want they want to see the price difference. But we also have to say there is something to the fact that they are already in our community, that they know, our streets. And I know in the presentation you gave that, we do have response from other of the neighboring areas. And I do live in North Mill Creek. So I do get a sense of that. But that's why I wanted to understand if there was a way to be able to do the two, because I just don't, with the resolution, the way it's currently stated, it feels very much, we're saying that we're going with annexation. We're going into looking into the annex. I have the document up and, interested in pursuing the potential in going. Anyways, all this to say is it just feels very hard and fast. And so I don't know if I'm comfortable with the language in the current resolution based off of the information provided today. And because I am, my knowledge of this has been attending city council meetings this whole year. And so I might not be privy to many conversations or to any of the conversations that has been going on behind the scenes. So thank you for that.
Councilmember Steckler.
Yeah, I'm thinking back of what Councilmember Bond was saying. I have two thoughts. One, if we're going to consider South County, they're making us a proposal for 1 year of service, 1 year only. And that's a big decision to move our fire service, our building, all that. There's a lot of other implications in this for a 1 year contract. That's all we really have. They're not making us a multi-year contract. Karen, I see you shaking your head. Are they making us a multi-year contract at 7.48?
again, the primary proposal is to annex, not to enter into a contract with South County Fire. That's a backup should we be unsuccessful in securing the approval of the city's voters for the annexation, which we do think is the least cost alternative. Both agencies provide great service. That is really not the issue that we have been focusing on. We've been really focusing on what is the cost to Mill Creek. And I see Grant has his hand up. He may have better addition.
Yeah, that I was going to make this make the same point, but also mention, this is the, I believe, fourth study session or council meeting we've had discussion of with respect to comparing, the costs of service with these two agencies, at least three that I can think of. So, the reason I provide that context is this discussion has been going on. It's been going on in public for quite some time. And so I know that both South County Fire and Surfer have been aware of exactly where the city has been going, exactly what the conversations have been, exactly what the data has been that you have been looking at as a council. So all those things are knowns. And I just want to make sure that that's clear. The other part, as Karen just said, the discussion and what's being proposed tonight is the proposal to pursue annexation. We're not negotiating a new contract, for a multi-year contract for service. As Karen said, it is a backup in the event the annexation vote fails. There will be service available for the city of Mill Creek from South County Fire. So we're trying to cover the downside risk and the upside risk of annexation, being in terms of looking at what the rate differentials are, and they are significant.
So back to my point that I was making, we're looking at a decision of annexation into South County based on a number of factors, but one of them is their costs are much lower, 7.48. But that's not truly their cost, and that's only 1 year. The cost that we have from Serpent is not even a proposal from them. They had a contract. In their contract, they had to send us a letter, and in that letter, which had the contract language spelled out for them, they had to tell us what their new fee would be. That was spelled out for them. That was not a proposal from them. That was something their contract called out for them to do. My understanding is they have been requesting to do a proposal, and the instructions they were given was that they could do a proposal, but not until we talk to South County. So they've been waiting they have not had a chance to do a proposal. All they're asking is for the right to do a proposal. But I'd like it to be apples to apples. What I'm concerned about is making a move to South County. Obviously, from my initial questions, you can see, I don't think there's enough information. I'm concerned about a huge move to annex us in South County when we have what we're talking about is a 1-year contract, and we have a lot of issues with the building and the equipment and the fire marshal that is still up in the air. I would like to I'd like to give South Serpent a chance to make a proposal and to give us what Mark was saying, maybe something to get us out of this timeline. Maybe they give us a 1-year contract, just like Serpent's doing. 1-year contract is what we'll charge you for 1 year. Or better yet, in my opinion, is they could give us a multi-year contract. I would prefer that, so we don't have to go through this silliness again in a year, which we'd have to do with South County. So I'd like to get a proposal from our fire department that we've been dealing with for so many years. We may not like it, but we can't make a decision without that information. It doesn't seem right. And then we could make the decision of which way we want to annex into South County or with Serpent. But we need to get a proposal from them before we can make that decision. We haven't gotten that yet. All we have is their contractual letter.
Councilmember Bond.
I don't see it quite that way. And right now is the time to be asking questions of Karen and the attorney, not to be making statements in favor of or against the resolution. There'll be a time to be in favor of or against the resolution. And there's been multiple meetings prior to now where it would have been appropriate for any council member wanting to hear District 7's proposal to say, hey, how come we haven't heard from them? Why haven't we heard from District 7? What's going on with District 7? Nobody said that. Now we're saying it. That's fine. We've got them here. I'm willing to acknowledge that maybe there was a break in communication, as they've stated. But we need to not make the debate right now for or against the resolution. We'll have the chance to do that. Let's ask our questions. So my question for Karen would be this. We're saying it seems to be some interest by this body to reach out to District 7, address if there were some communication breakdowns, what those were, and to give them a chance to be heard if they were in fact not heard or misunderstood, or the letter that they wrote was intended in some way other than how it was received. If we move forward with the resolution tonight and we pass it, and just hypothetically, over the next month, District 7 said, we can do this, that, or the other thing. This will give you one more year than you thought you had to work through this very complex challenge in a way that's best for everybody involved. Would we be able to put a stop to the resolution and address that or not?
Yes, I mean, other than, I think, sending some confusing messages to South County Fire, certainly the passage of the resolution does not mean that you would have to place an annexation measure on the ballot in February. If in the interim between now and then you determined that despite having pursued that annexation effort, you were in receipt of a firm proposal, hopefully much sooner rather than later, from Surfer that you found much more attractive than the annexation path, that is, you could elect to go in that direction should you choose. That would still leave you with the need to go to the voters and find some funding for that contract. So I just want,
I understand.
we
So
have multiple
I also
paths now.
And I also recognize that I'm not trying to send a bad message to District 1 or that we no longer are interested in them. What I'm trying to do is be a good partner to District 7 and at least give them a fair shake. The same good partner that I would be to District 1 if we opted to partner with them. They're saying, we're sorry, we made a mistake, there was misunderstanding. I'm willing to at least give some grace there to see what it is, and see if we can do something. I am not looking for a long-term contract. We're trying to just buy some time to go and see if this annexation path is the right one for us. And if it is, how do we pursue it and who do we pursue it with?
Councilmember Bond, could I provide a little bit more backup on that as well? In response to your question, if it is the desire of the council to defer taking action on this resolution tonight, we could certainly reschedule it for next week. If Surfer if Surfer has a proposal and has been eager to provide the proposal to the city, it would be great if they could simply provide it by the end of the week so that we could review it. And we could turn it around and provide some analysis to the council at the following meeting. Unlike the Rolling Stones, for the council on this issue, time is not on your side. And that's why I think we don't have several months to do this. If we could keep the time windows fairly constrained, then I think we could defer the action that was being requested tonight.
Thank you, Grant. I'm not available on the 7th, and I believe Mayor Holzclaw may not be as well. And so really my question is simply not trying to say District 7, Surfer, the prior District 7. I'm not saying, hey, get your proposal ready, get it to us now, because I don't think that's realistic. Even though they've indicated that they put significant effort into getting ready for that, it also is going to take this body time to process that data, whatever it is. What I'm hoping is that if we can sit down, if Karen, Reed, Mayor, whoever can meet with District 7, the district formerly known as District 7, and resolve some sort of extension to the current time crunch so that we could just do this properly. That's really all I'm hoping for at this point.
Councilmember Steckler.
I was going to make the same suggestion that Grant just did. I was hoping that we could take a pause on the annexation just for a week or two to allow Surfer to come back with a proposal that Karen and Grant can review. And I think we can still stay with our timeline, still crunch, I know, but at least we know we've got the information. I just don't know, will we be able to do that as a council by the 14th? Because if we could, would that be acceptable to Grant and Karen? Can we still achieve our timeline? Because it would be nice to get that information in. I'd like to make a decision. I just don't feel like I have all the information in front of me for tonight.
I don't think it's necessarily a question of whether it's acceptable to Grant or I. Will do whatever we can to support you. You guys are really the ones that end up being in the hot seat because you have less time to consider how you want to move forward. And if you do decide to move forward with annexation in either event, the math is very different. And how you convey the rest of the story to the taxpayers about what you will do in response if annexation is successful, that is an important conversation to have. It's critical to have that conversation if you're going to go forward with an annexation vote, and that we don't want to lose a whole lot of time around that and really just jam you up in January. So, but if it is your desire to hold off on this resolution for a couple of weeks so that we can receive and consider a proposal from Surfer, that we can certainly see if Surfer can help us out in that response.
Here's where my head's at. We can't change what has happened. I don't know how we got to where we are today, but we are where we are. We can't change the timelines going forward. Nothing's going to change the dates. We have to comply with whatever decision we make. I don't know if it's interesting or ironic we're having this discussion today. I woke up yesterday, probably 50 or 60 emails in my Gmail account about Cyber Monday ends today. Deal's done at midnight. And I woke up this morning to another 50 emails. It's been extended, another 24 hours. Yeah, again, I don't know how we got here, but I feel that we owe it to the voters to hear what the opportunities might be with Fire District 7. And pardon, no disrespect by referring to the old one. I can't keep the new name straight, so if I would refer to Fire District 1 and 7. I'm hearing a consensus that everyone would like to at least hear what could be put on the table before we make a decision, even though the resolution before us tonight does not commit us to South County. It, if anything, is symbolic of an intent to do that. And so I'm not hearing any strenuous objection legally or practically as to why we couldn't defer this for 2 weeks when I believe all 7 of us would be here. So since I will be on the 49th state while this discussion is going, I think we might need some help from our fire board. 2 of you are here tonight to, I don't know if we meet with or how we got to you guys to work out with the interim city manager and Karen and Grant, but do we have a consensus that we'd like to put that in motion and make that happen on December 14th?
I would make that motion, Mayor.
I don't think we need a motion. I think this is more of a, there's no motion yet on the table to approve the resolution, so I think it's more.
I would suggest we put that in motion, Mayor.
I was waiting for, what is your motion?
Here's the motion.
Oh, he's saying put that in motion. I think we have a consensus to this
Yeah.
consideration of the resolution off to December 14th with direction that fire board and our staff work with Fire District 7 to hear what their proposal might be, so that we can have that information on the 14th when we consider what we do or do not do.
I'd be in favor of that. Really specifically, what I would love is if Grant and Karen, if they meet with, if they're able to meet with the board and the district, and one, it looks like we need to discuss it, that there's merit to having further discussion with them to hear them out. At first blush, it has something of value there beyond this is what we're doing if you're either with us or you're not. If there's, and if in that discussion, we find some common ground to extend this by 12 months beyond where we're currently at, to actually have some more time to just sort of do this properly, get folks all educated, form a plan as to how we're gonna work with the voters on this and educate them, answer questions like Will Nelson provided, like, hey, if you do this, what are you gonna do with the extra money? There's a lot going on, and right now we're in a pinch, but it's possible we could get some relief from that if the district expresses a willingness to work.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree that we should look and wait till the 14th and give Surfer the chance to come to the table with their offer and what they would like to discuss with us. I do feel that we need to be really firm with our December 14th deadline, because we are up against a time crunch where I'd like to be able to say what Councilmember Bond is saying, but we are in a time crunch that we have got to make a decision, and we don't have the luxury of not making a decision because we don't have the funds to pay for a higher contract next year, and we're gonna have to go to the voters and demand money from them. So we really don't have the time to sit and just do a one-year contract. So I'm in favor of making sure that we are hearing from Surfer. We are finding out what they want to put on the table and have that negotiation with them so that they don't feel like we're slamming the door on them. So we have a good working relationship with them and all the history, but we really need to stay firm on this 14th deadline, since we're kicking the can down a couple weeks. We can't kick the can down to next year because we can't afford to. So that's my input. Thanks.
Councilmember Steckler.
Just a point of clarification, I heard someone was talking about a one-year contract or extension, or what is the direction to Surfer? Is it to come back to us with a one-year contract or a multi-year contract? Just one clarification on that, or both.
We're not giving them
We're not
direction.
giving them
Not
direction.
giving
They
them
said they
direction.
have
They're an
proposed.
independent entity that is negotiating in their interests, just like we are.
So but they all want to know.
They heard what we said. They can, you're right.
All right. Well,
I think the direction is no different than we have with South County. We want to annex and encourage the voters to annex, but we need to figure out what the terms of that, what that might mean to the voters from either district. We've heard from South County. We haven't fully heard what the proposal might be from Fire District 7. But we've also discussed with South County the what ifs if the annexation isn't approved, and that's where the contracts come in. And so if they have a proposal to us to bridge that gap, if we're unsuccessful with the voters, then I think we want to hear that, don't we? And so I don't think we're laying anything particular out there. I guess I would try to close out this discussion by saying, who's going to contact who tomorrow?
Mike Todd and I can certainly reach out to Chief O'Brien.
May I ask you a question? Is that appropriate?
Go ahead, sure. Any objection?
no.
Mayor, I believe
Yes.
Councilmember Duque had tried to
Oh, I'm
get in.
sorry. Councilmember Duque.
I did. It was one, like every time I had my hand up, someone said something and I was like, I think that's answered my question. And that really is the understanding of come before December 14th, obviously, because we would need it to see it in our packets and understand and read it and all that information. We're potentially looking at what is the potentially, right? What is the proposal for an annexation from Surfer? We won't get everything though, because we're currently in negotiations with South County. So even that, we don't have all the firm details yet of what that looks like, but it's giving us what we're hoping to get is something kind of equal. And then potentially, just like if the annexation fails, this is what it looks like for South County. Surfer would also potentially, if they wanted to, give us that option if they wanted to make it apples to apples. I just wanted to make sure that's kind of what we're potentially going to be looking at for us to vote upon. And I'm saying that because I'm new to this, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding and I'm not getting the vibe since I'm not physically there.
Commissioner Clay.
This has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you on behalf of thank you on behalf of Surfer for the consideration. But we understand how tight the timeline is. I know this can leave a stain for you that here they come, me too, me too. With all respect to Grant, I can tell you that since the letter came to you, we have deliberately and in good faith been banging on the door and have been told, not yet, not yet, not yet. So I guess going forward, certainly we have high respect for Karen and Grant. We're happy to talk to them. I am aware, and this is where my candor always gets me in trouble, is that when the letter came to you, I believe the council's instructions to your city manager was to reconstitute the fire board and talk to us. And I can tell you, there was no invitations. There was no joint fire board meetings that ever took place with us. So I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm saying that with this compressed timeline, all of us are gonna have now. I wanna make sure that we don't step in it again related to communications. So if we can get some direction about whether you want your fire board members to be communicated with as well, or Karen and Grant are the folks to bring all of our information back to you. I will say too that we understand what's at risk with the annexation vote versus the EMS levy vote. And because, you know, we had 2 failed levy votes, we understand that roll of the dice. And certainly, depending on how this ends up, we bring a very dedicated workforce. If we end up having to pass that EMS levy to help promote that and push that for the city, even though technically you're not part of the district, we're happy to support the city if that's helpful. So I just want to reassure you that we'll work hard. Roy's back there biting his teeth, but we'll work hard with the commissioners on our end to try to get something to you for consideration. And we really appreciate your willingness to put some additional stress in your own lives to give us this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bond.
I was just gonna make a point that the way our meetings are structured, well, this is our only topic, and once this is done, we'll be done. And then we will also have audience communication. Anybody that wants to take another moment at the mic to share any thoughts, they're welcome to do that at that time.
We didn't have it on the agenda, but if there's a will, unanimous consent to have another audience communication, then we can.
Absolutely. We normally do, so my bad.
No worries. If there's no objection, if anyone wants to address the council, we'll give you.
So are we good with, we're gonna put this resolution on hold?
Yes, the resolution will be on hold for 2 weeks, and Karen and Grant will work with you and Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Cap to get in touch and work with Commissioner Fain, the chief, to get those discussions going forward. We can't change what has happened up to now, so let's just figure it out going forward.
Great.
Okay, anyone want to address the council? Chief.
I just want to say thank you, Mayor, Council. Really appreciate the opportunity. We're going to get in there, roll up our sleeves, work collaboratively with you, Karen and Grant, and staff, and we're going to get on it. And we know there's a tight timeline, and so we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the scrolling to another screen in the virtual world? Anyone? Going once, twice? Okay, we'll end audience communication. That is the end of our agenda for this evening. So if there's no objection, I will adjourn the meeting. We are adjourned at 7:26. Thank you, everyone. Aloha. See you on the 14th.